My name is Lauren, and I was my mom's first child. She had me when she was still figuring out her life. She got married young, right after high school, to my dad, Scott. They were more focused on love than on money, which didn't work out well for long. I was still just a little kid when she met Kyle, a guy with a lot of money and a fancy car. She left my dad, took me with her, and never looked back, except to collect the alimony checks. At first, Kyle seemed nice. He would bring me little treats and let me play in his big office filled with shiny things. But my mom changed around him. She always looked at me like I reminded her of a life she wanted to forget. One evening, I overheard them talking in the kitchen while I was supposed to be watching TV. "She's too much like Scott," my mom said sharply. "Always asking questions, always looking at me like he used to." I didn't understand what she meant at the time, but it hurt to hear her talk about me like I was a problem. I loved my real dad. Sure, he lived in a small apartment on the other side of the city, but every moment with him was fun, even if we were just playing in the park or eating cheap pizza. My mom's words from that night stuck with me, and she only became more critical over time. "Can't you do anything right?" she'd say whenever I tried to help around the house or did my schoolwork in the living room. My dad, on the other hand, was different. "You're doing great, Lauren," he'd tell me whenever I showed him my grades or a drawing from school. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Life at my mom and Kyle's house got more stressful when I started school. My mom was always talking about appearances, how I needed to wear the right clothes and hang out with the right kids. "Why can't you dress like Karen's daughter? Look at her," she'd say, showing me a picture from a party I wasn't invited to. One day, after she scolded me for tracking mud into the hallway, I finally snapped back. "At least Dad doesn't yell about a bit of dirt." The slap came fast, her hand stinging my cheek before I knew it. I even saw it move. "Don't talk about your father like that," she hissed, her face close to mine, her breath smelling of coffee and anger. Tears started to fill my eyes, but I held them back, just like Dad taught me. That night, lying in my bed, I promised myself I wouldn't let her see me cry. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. When Mom announced she was pregnant again, the whole house felt different, like something big was about to change, and not in a good way. She had that glow people talk about when they're expecting, but it never seemed to shine in my direction. "I'm having a baby with the man I love, Kyle. It's going to be perfect," Mom said one evening, rubbing her belly while Kyle beamed like he'd won a prize. Kyle, always trying to charm, added, "We'll need to redo the guest room, make it fit for a little princess." My heart sank. They were talking about my room, my little corner in their world. "What about my room?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom shot me a look, her smile turning tight. "You can move into the smaller room, Lauren. It's only fair. The baby will need the space." The way she said fair made it sound like it was already decided, no room for arguing. So I moved, packed up my things, and settled into the smallest room in the house, barely bigger than a closet. Time flew by, and soon Mary was born. She was all anyone could talk about. "Isn't she just the most beautiful baby you've ever seen?" Mom would gush to her friends over the phone, cradling Mary like she was the most precious thing in the world. "Yeah, she's cute," I'd mutter, trying to join the conversation. Cute was an understatement. Mary was adorable, and I couldn't help but love her from the moment I saw her. I wanted to be a good big sister, to be involved and help out. One afternoon, I tried to sneak into Mary's room while Mom was busy in the kitchen. I tiptoed in, peering over the crib at my baby sister, who was gurgling happily. "Hey there, Mary," I whispered, reaching out a finger for her to grab. But Mom must have heard me, because suddenly she was at the door, her voice sharp as a knife. "What are you doing, Lauren? I told you to ask before going into her room." "I just wanted to see her," I protested, feeling the familiar sting of tears pricking my eyes. I wanted to help, but Dad was different. During one of my weekends with him, I'd opened up while we were having pizza at our favorite spot. Mom's always on edge when I'm around Mary. It's like she thinks I'll break her or something, I said. Dad chewed thoughtfully before replying, You know, Lauren, some people just have a hard time sharing love. It's like they think there's only so much to go around. But remember, you've got a big heart. Don't let your mom's behavior make you think otherwise. His words helped a little, but back at Mom's house, the distance between us kept growing. Even when I tried to share stories about school or friends, Mom's attention was always split, half listening and half watching Mary. One day, I came home with a school award, second place in the science fair. I was so excited, clutching the certificate like it was a ticket to their approval. Look, Mom, I won this, I exclaimed, holding it out to her as she fed Mary. That's nice, dear, she said without looking up. Put it on the fridge or something. Or something, I echoed to myself, the words feeling empty. I stuck the certificate on the fridge, a bit crooked, and stepped back. To them, it was just another piece of paper, just another day in Mary's shadow. By the time I reached high school, things were pretty rough at home. Between Mom's cold shoulders and Kyle's indifference, I felt more like a guest than a part of the family. It was around then that the bomb-dropped mom decided it was time for me to live with Dad permanently. The day she told me we were having dinner, it was one of those rare moments where it was just her and me at the table. Kyle was late from work, and Mary was already tucked in. Lauren, we need to talk about your future, Mom started, pushing her food around her plate with a fork. There was no warmth in her voice, just a cold, businesslike tone that immediately made me nervous. What about it? I asked, trying to sound casual, but my heart was racing. We've been discussing things, and we think it's best if you move in with your father. With the new baby coming, things here are, well, they're complicated. I almost choked on my water. Move in with Dad. But why? I thought everything was fine here. Mom sighed, a sound full of impatience. Look, Lauren, you're not a child anymore. You need your own space, and we can't provide that here, not with the new situation. It's cramped, and frankly, the financial burden is more than we expected. It's better for everyone this way. I pushed my plate away, no longer hungry. And what about school? My friends? You can go to a new school, make new friends, she said, as if it were that simple, as if my life could be easily replaced. It felt like I had to erase my life and start over without any trouble. The next few weeks were a blur as I packed up my things, my whole world shrinking into boxes, books, clothes, and the few keepsakes that meant something to me. Kyle barely said goodbye, and Mary, too young to understand, gave me a confused hug. Moving day was tough. Dad lived on the other side of town in a small apartment. It was clean but cluttered with memories of a life paused since Mom left him. He was standing there waiting for me with open arms and a worried smile when I arrived. The apartment was nothing like the house I grew up in. My new room was half the size of my old one, with walls that needed paint and a window that looked out at a brick wall. But it was quiet, and Dad was trying his best to make it feel like home. The first day of the new school was rough. As I walked down the crowded hallways, I could feel the stares and hear the whispers. That's the new girl, they'd say, as if I were some kind of oddity. In class, I kept to myself, doodling in my notebook and trying to block out the murmurs. When the bell rang, I was the first one out the door, not wanting to linger. At home, Dad noticed my mood. How was school? He asked, trying to keep his tone light. It was fine, I lied, shrugging off my coat and dropping my bag by the door. If it gets tough, you tell me, okay? We're in this together. You're not alone, Lauren. His words meant a lot, but the loneliness I felt was deep and gnawing. It wasn't just about missing my old friends or the big house. It was about feeling unwanted, like I was pushed out because I was too much of a burden. Adjusting to life at Dad's wasn't easy, but I quickly realized that if I didn't pull myself together, things would only get worse. One morning, I woke up, looked around my cramped room, and decided it was time to take charge of my life. No one else is going to do it for me, I muttered under my breath. Dad noticed the change in me almost immediately. Over breakfast one day, he looked up from his coffee and said, "You're looking more determined these days, Lauren. What's on your mind?" I stirred my cereal, thinking about how to put it into words. "I want to make something of myself, Dad. I don't want to end up stuck, you know." He nodded, a serious look crossing his face. "I hear you, kiddo. So what's the plan?" "That scholarship, the big one for the top students, I'm going to get it," I declared, more to convince myself than him. Dad's smile was all the encouragement I needed. I needed that scholarship, and if anyone could get it, it was me. Dad said, "Just tell me what you need from me." School was tough, with long hours spent catching up and even longer evenings buried in books. My teachers noticed the change. Even the tough ones seemed to respect how hard I was working. Mr. Jeremy, my math teacher, kept me after class one day. "Lauren, your work has improved a lot. What's driving this?" he asked. "I need that scholarship," I replied bluntly, packing up my stuff. "I've got plans, and they don't include being stuck here forever." Mr. Jeremy studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Well, keep at it, and let me know if you need extra help. I'm here." Making friends wasn't easy, but I managed to find a few people who didn't mind that I was focused on my goals. During lunch, I'd sit with Linda and Peter, two kids who weren't exactly popular but knew how to laugh. "So, Lauren, you're like a library ninja now, huh?" Peter joked one day, nudging me as we sat down with our trays. I cracked a smile. "Yeah, got to be stealthy if I want to snag the best study spots." Linda chimed in, her voice soft but sincere. "It's cool what you're doing, Lauren. Most wouldn't bother." Days turned into months, and the pressure grew as the application deadlines got closer. Dad was my rock, always there with a hot meal and a listening ear whenever the stress became too much. The day I got the scholarship letter, my hands were shaking as I tore it open. Dad was right there, holding his breath. I scanned the words, my heart pounding, and then I cheered so loud the neighbors probably heard. "I got it, Dad. I got it." I jumped up, the letter flapping in my hand like a flag of victory. Dad swept me up in a big hug, laughing and cheering right along with me. "I knew it. I knew you could do it." As I packed up my things for college a few months later, I felt ready. The future was bright, and for the first time, it felt like it was truly mine. I was leaving, but I was taking all these lessons, all this love and hard-earned wisdom with me. After graduating with honors and establishing a solid career, I finally felt like I was on stable ground. I was 25, doing well at my job, and had just started dating a great guy from work named Eric, who had been nothing but supportive. Then, out of the blue, my mom called. We hadn't spoken much since I moved out, but suddenly here she was asking more like telling me something. "Lauren, your sister Mary is going to college in your city. We've paid her tuition, and we think it'd be best if she stayed with you," Mom said, making it clear this wasn't just a suggestion. I hesitated, memories of our strained relationship running through my mind, but I wanted to believe things could be different this time. "Okay, Mom, I'll help Mary out. It might be nice to reconnect," I said, trying to keep any doubts out of my voice. Mary moved in 2 weeks later, and it was obvious right away that we were very different. She was as stunning as ever, completely focused on her looks and living a high-maintenance lifestyle. She brought with her a suitcase full of expectations and a personality that expected them to be met. "Can you make sure we have almond milk and kale?" "I'm on a special diet," Mary said casually on her first evening, checking herself out in the mirror. "Sure, I'll add them to the grocery list," I replied, trying to be accommodating. But living with Mary turned out to be harder than I expected. She partied like there was no tomorrow, often coming home at dawn, her carefree laughter echoing through the apartment while I lay awake, worrying about work meetings and presentations. One afternoon, Eric came over while Mary was getting ready for another night out. I noticed how she smiled at him just a bit too sweetly and for a bit too long. After she left, Eric spoke up. Lauren, I think Mary's got the wrong idea about me. She's been, well, flirty. I felt a wave of anger and embarrassment. Thanks for telling me, Eric. I'll talk to her. When I confronted Mary, she just laughed it off. Oh, come on, Lauren, I'm just being friendly. Besides, can I help it if he likes me back? That's my fiancé, Mary. You need to respect that, I replied, my voice firm. Her laugh turned cold. Lauren, I'm used to getting what I want. I always have. That was the last straw. I couldn't live like this, feeling like I had to guard my life from my own sister. You need to find another place to live, Mary. This isn't working out, I said, making it clear that I meant it. I told her my decision was final, and Mary stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Within an hour, my phone rang. It was Mom, and her voice was cold and sharp. You're such a jealous girl, Lauren. You can't stand to see your sister happy, can you? I just want respect, Mom, that's all, I replied, but it was like talking to a wall. After that, things went quiet between Mary and me. I heard through the grapevine that she dropped out of college and was drifting through her social circles on charm and whims. As for me, I refocused on my life with Eric, my work, and rebuilding my boundaries. 3 years flew by since I last tried to patch things up with my family. Things were going well for me, I was moving up at work, and life with Eric was better than ever. That's when I heard the news about Mary. She had dropped out of college and was getting married to some rich guy she'd met. Feeling a mix of curiosity and goodwill, I picked up the phone to call home and offer my congratulations. Mom answered, her voice cold and distant as always. Mom, I heard about Mary's wedding. I just wanted to say congratulations, I started, trying to keep my tone light. Well, don't bother. We're not waiting for you at the wedding. It's for rich people only, and we don't need any beggars there, she spat out, her words cutting deep. I clenched the phone a little tighter, feeling the old sting of rejection. Really, Mom, that's how you're going to be. What did you expect, Lauren? You've always been the difficult one. Just stay away, she said before hanging up. I stood there, phone in hand, the dial tone echoing in my ear. The hurt was real, but I wasn't going to let it ruin me. I found out later that they'd spared no expense on Mary's wedding, hiring popular artists and actors to make it a lavish affair. Time passed, and life didn't stand still for me either. Eric proposed, and suddenly I was planning my own wedding, nothing extravagant, but every bit filled with love and sincerity. I called Dad to share the news. He was overjoyed. Lauren, that's wonderful. You bet I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world, he said, his voice brimming with happiness. Encouraged by Dad's reaction, I made one last attempt to bridge the gap with my mom. I dialed her number, my heart racing as I waited for her to pick up. Mom, I'm getting married. I want you to come, I said, holding my breath. Her reply was as cold as a winter breeze. No, Lauren, not interested in attending some modest gathering of losers. Count me out. I swallowed hard, fighting back the hurt. All right, Mom, take care, I said, and hung up, knowing it was probably the last time I'd invite her into my life. Our wedding day was simple but beautiful. Dad walked me down the aisle, his presence a steady comfort. The room was filled with genuine smiles and heartfelt congratulations, a stark contrast to the grandeur and coldness of Mary's wedding spectacle. Our modest reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and stories. Eric and I mingled with friends and family who loved us for who we were, not for money or status. Life was going well, and Eric and I were thrilled to be expecting our first child. Then one ordinary afternoon, my phone rang, and the voice on the other end turned my day upside down. It was Mom, and she wasn't calling to congratulate me. Lauren, you have to take us in. We're desperate, she blurted out without even a hello. Mom, what's going on? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. It's all gone wrong. Kyle's business failed. We mortgaged the house for Mary's wedding, and now it's all just gone. And your sister's marriage is over. Her husband kicked her out and is demanding money for her cheating, she explained hurriedly, her voice edged with panic. I took a deep breath, trying to process the flood of information. Okay, slow down. What exactly are you asking of me? We need a place to stay, all of us. We're coming to your house, she stated matter-of-factly, as if it were the most obvious solution. The request, or rather the demand, hit me hard. No, Mom, you can't just decide to move in with us. It doesn't work like that. Lauren, you owe us after everything we've done for you, she snapped, her voice sharp and commanding. That struck a nerve. Oh, you, Mom? Remember how you were when I needed you most? You pushed me out. You chose everything over me. And now you expect me to just open my doors. Her voice rose. You're being selfish, Lauren. Where is your family spirit? I am your mother. And you've never let me forget it. But being a mother doesn't mean what you think it does. It's not about debts and demands. I shot back, my patience wearing thin. Her fury was palpable even through the phone. You'll regret this, Lauren. I might even take you to court to get what I deserve. I couldn't help but laugh, but it was more from disbelief than anything else. Go ahead and try, Mom. Remember, Dad was my guardian when you kicked me out. What are you going to claim? That your daughter wouldn't let you live off her after you threw her out. There was a pause, and I could almost hear her thinking. This isn't over, Lauren, she finally hissed before hanging up. Life after that last call with Mom felt like a fresh start, a real new beginning. Eric and I were busy getting the nursery ready, picking out paint colors, assembling the crib, and navigating the usual ups and downs of pregnancy. It was a bright and early Friday morning, and I was setting up some baby clothes we had just bought, folding them neatly into the new dresser. Eric was drilling something in the corner, the electric screwdriver buzzing away. He stopped, wiped his forehead, and looked over at me with a smile. How's it going over there, Lauren? Need any help? I've got it, thanks. Just thinking about everything. It's really happening, huh? I responded, running my hand over a tiny soft onesie. It really is. We're going to be parents, Lauren, he said, his voice full of awe and a bit of nervous excitement. Just then, there was a knock at the door. I was surprised. Who could it be this early on a Friday? Eric went to answer it while I continued organizing. I heard voices, and then Eric called out, Lauren, it's for you. Walking into the living room, I was surprised to see my dad standing there with a big grin on his face and a teddy bear in hand. Surprise, he exclaimed. Dad, what are you doing here? I couldn't hide my delight as I rushed over to give him a big hug. I wanted to come and see how my favorite daughter is doing, and I brought something for my future grandchild. He handed me the teddy bear, which was soft and cuddly. Thank you, Dad. It means the world to me that you're here, I said, feeling a bit emotional. We sat down, and Dad looked around at the half-assembled baby furniture and the stacks of baby books. Looks like you're almost ready for the little one. We're trying. It's a lot, but we're excited, I told him, then paused, biting my lip. Dad, I had another call with Mom. It didn't go well. Dad's expression turned serious. I heard about it from your mom. She wasn't too pleased, was she? No, she wasn't. But Dad, I stood my ground. I had to for me, for Eric, and for the baby. We need peace here. I said firmly. The day passed with us sharing stories, Dad giving us some unsolicited but funny parenting advice, and just enjoying being together. It was a good day, one of those days you know you'll look back on fondly. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Eric, Dad, and I sat on the porch, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. Eric put his arm around me, and I leaned into him. Despite everything with Mom and all the drama, I feel lucky. We have each other, and we're about to start this amazing new chapter. I have a feeling it's going to be great, I said, looking out at the fading light. Eric kissed the top of my head. It will be. We've got this, Lauren. As night fell and Dad said his goodbyes, I felt a deep sense of contentment and readiness for what was to come. The challenges with my mom and the uncertainty of new beginnings had been tough, but they led me here, to this moment, surrounded by love and support.